Alright. Alright. We're gonna continue with the second video. Alright. Alright. Okay. He compromised by putting his ear against the door. At first, it was nothing. Then he heard a faint sound. Dead fingernails scratching the wood. Danny walked into the kitchen. On the knot their legs stood on a chair and peed into the sink. Then he woke his mother and told her not to go into the bathroom because there was a bad thing there. Once that was done, he went back into bed into a sink deep a bit and went to bed and sank deep beneath the covers. He wanted to stay there forever, not only getting up to pee in the sink. Now that he had warned his mother, he had no interest in talking to her. His mother knew about the no talking thing that had happened after Danny had vented in room 217 at the Overlook. Will you talk to Dick? Lying in his bed, looking up at her, and he nodded. His mother called, even though it was 4 in the morning. Late the next day, Dick came and he brought something with him as a present. Alright. After Wendy called Dick, she made sure that Danny, he heard her doing it. Danny went back to sleep. Although he was now 8 and in the 3rd grade, he was sucking his thumb. It hurted her to see him do that, and went to the bathroom door and stood looking at it. She was afraid. Danny had made her afraid, but she had to go. And she had no intention of using the sink that he had. The image of how she looked teetered onto the edge of the counter with her butt hanging over the porcelain, even if there was no one there to see, it made her wrinkle her nose. In one hand she had the hammer from her little box of Windows tools. As she turned the knob and pushed the bathroom door open, she raised it. The bathroom was empty, of course, but the ring of the toilet seat was down. She never left it that way before going into the bed, because if she knew if Danny was wandered in, only 10% awake. He was it was to forget that to put it up and piss all over it. Also, there was a smell, a bad one, that a rat had died on the walls. She took a step in, and then 2. She saw movement. And whirled a hammer uprising to hit whatever was who hit whoever, whatever. Alright. Was hiding behind the door, but it was only her shadow. Scared of her shadow, people sometimes sneered, but had better than Wendy Torrance. After the thing she had seen and been through, She knew that the shadows could be dangerous. They could have teeth. No one in the bathroom. No one in the bathroom, but there uh, was a discolored smear on the toilet seat, another on the shower curtain. Excrement was her first thought, but she wasn't yellowish purple. She looked more closely and saw bits of flesh and decayed skin. There was there was more small. Oh wait, there was more on the bath mat in the shape of fingerprints. She thought them too small and too dainty to be the man's. Oh God, she whispered. She ended up using the sink after all. Wendy nagged her son out of bed at noon, and she managed to get a little soap and have a peanut butter sandwich into him. But then he went back to bed and he still wouldn't speak. Halloran arrived shortly after 5 of the afternoon. He behind the wheel and was now an accident, but perfectly maintained. She blindly polished red Cadillac. Wendy had been standing at the window, waiting and watching. She had once waited and watched for her husband, hoping Jack would come home in a good mood and sober. She rushed down to the stairs and opened the door just as Dick was about to ring the bell. Torrance! 2A. He held out his arms and she rushed into them at once, wishing she could be enfolded there for at least an hour, maybe two. He let go. He let go and held her at her arm's length by her shoulders. You're looking fine, Wendy. How's the little man? He's talking again? No, but he'll talk to you, even if he won't do it out loud to start with you, Cam. Instead of finishing, she made the finger gun and pointed at his forehead. Not necessarily, Dick said. Dick said. He smiled, revealed a bright new pair of false teeth. The overlook had taken most of the last set on the pair of false teeth. The overlook had taken most of the last. Oh, said Knight of the boiler. Uh, Boiler blue. Jack Torrance swung the mallet that took Dick's dentures and Wendy's ability to walk. Without the hinge. Okay. Without the hinge in her stride, but they both understood that they had really been at the overlook. He's very powerful, Wendy. If he wants to block me out, he will. I know from my own experience. Besides, it'd be better if you walk without our mouths. Better for him. Now tell me everything that happened. After she did that, Wendy took him into the bathroom. she had left the strings for him to see, like to like a beat cop pre- preserving the scene of a crime for second team, and there had been a crime once against her boy. Dick looked for a long time, not touching, then nodding. Let's see if Danny's up and in the doings. He wasn't, but Wendy's heart was lightened by the look of gladness that had come into her son's face when he saw the sitting beside him on the bed and was shaking his shoulders. Hey, Danny, I bought you a present. It's not it's not my birthday. Wendy watched them, knowing they were speaking, but now knowing what it was about. Dick said, Get up, get on, get on up, honey. We're gonna take a walk on the bench. Dick, she came back. Miss Massey from room 217 came back. Oh man, it's getting hot in here. Alright, came back. Div gave his shoulder another shake. Talk out loud, Dan. You're scaring your mom. Danny said, What's my present? Dick smiled. That's better. I like to hear you, and Wendy does too. Yes, it was all she dared to say. Otherwise they hear the tremble in the voice as and could be concerned. She didn't want that. While we are gone, you might want to give the bathroom a cleaning. Dick said to her, Have you gotten the kitchen gloves? She nodded. Good, wear them. Alright. The the beach was 2 miles away. The parking lot surrounded by tar dry, beachfront attractions, funnel cake, conkesh, hot dog stands. Man, they sound good. Souvenir shops, but this was the tag of the end of the season, and none of were doing much business. They they had the beach itself almost entirely to themselves. On the ride from the apartment, Danny had held the present into oblong package, quite heavy, wrapped in silver paper in his lap. Now you can open it after we walk a bit, Dick said. They walked above the waves, where the sand was hard and gleaming. Danny walked slowly, but Dick was pretty old. Someday he'd die, maybe even soon. I'm good to go another few years, Dick said. Don't you worry about that. Now tell me about that night. Don't leave anything out. It didn't take long. The hard part would have been finding words to explain the terror that he now felt and how it was mingled with a suffocation sense of certainty. Now that she found him, she'd never leave, but it was Dick. He didn't need words. Although she found some, she'll come back. I know she will come. She will come back, and and come back until she gets me. Do you remember when we met? Although surprised at the change of direction, Danny nodded. It was had to been Halloran who gave him and his parents the guided tour at their first day of the Overlook. Very long ago that seemed, and do you remember the first time I spoke up in your head? I sure do. What did I say? You asked me if I wanted to go to Florida with you. With you. That's right. And how did it make you feel? To know you wasn't alone anymore. That you wasn't the only one. It was great. It it was so great. Yeah, Halloran said. Yeah, yeah, of course it was. They walked in silence for a bit. Little birds, Peeps, Danny's mother called them, ran in and out of the waves. Did it ever strike you funny how I shout how I showed up when you needed me? He looked he looked down at Danny and smiled. No, I didn't. Why would it? You were just a child, but you're a little older now, and and a lot older in some ways. Wait, a lot older in some ways. Listen to me, Danny. The world has a way of keeping things in balance. In balance. I believe that there is a saying when the when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. I was your teacher. You were a lot more than that. Danny said he took Dick's hand. You were my friend. You were my friend. You saved us. Dick ignored this. Or seemed to. My grandma also had the shining. Do you remember me telling you that? Yeah. You said you and her could have long conversations without even opening your mouths. That's right. She taught me. And it was her great grandma that taught her way back in the slave days. Someday, Danny, it will be your turn to be a teacher. The pupil will come. If Mrs. Massey doesn't get me first, Danny said morsely. They come to the bench and Dick sat down. I don't dare to go any further. I might not make it back. Sit beside me and I want to tell you something. Okay. I want to tell you a story. I don't want stories, Danny said. She'll come back, don't you? Get it? She'll come back and come back and come back. Shut your mouth and open your ears. Take the instructions. Wow. Oh my god. Then Dick grinned, displaying his gleaming and new dentures. I think you get the point. You're far from stupid, honey. Dick's mother's mother, the one with the shining, lived in Clearwater. She was the white grandma. She was the white grandma. Not because she was Caucasian, of course, but because she was good. His father's father lived in Dunbury, Mississippi, a rural community not far from Oxford. His wife had died long before Dick was born. For a man of color that the place and time, he was wealthy and owned a funeral parlor. Dick and the parents visited times for years, and young Dick Halloran hated those visits. He was terrified of Andy Halloran and called him only in his mind. To speak it and aloud would have earned you a smack across the chop and the black grandpa. The black grandpa. You know about the kitty of fiddlers? Dick asked Danny. Guys who want what? Oh my god. Sort of. Danny said consciously. Certainly he knew not to talk to strangers and would never get into the car. Okay. Not into the car with one. Because they might do stuff with you. Well, old Andy was more than a kitty fiddler. He was a damn sadist as well. What's that? Someone who enjoys giving pain. Who enjoys giving pain. Danny nodded to immediate understanding, and like Frankie learning at school, he gives kids Indian burns of Dutch rubs if he can't make you cry. He stops if you can't. He never stops. That is bad, but was worse.